questions throughout.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, everybody.
Okay, this is not going to be a boring session, so I need you guys to say it again. Good morning. Okay, great. So, Jackie, that was a lot of
Yeah, that
phony
was
stuff
all of
about
the
us.
professional
Yeah.
LinkedIn stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, you want to click through? You want to start the actual presentation? You have the clicker for it.
Yeah, but why don't you tell them something great about Jackie?
Okay,
It's not there.
well, give them the first slide.
Let's see,
It
there
has
you
my
go.
picture
What about
on there.
that? Yeah,
All
there
right,
you go.
so that was all the professional stuff. So I kind of want to tell you how we got here, because it's kind of unusual to be an agile transformation executive, right? So I've been 15 years in the agile field, but I started out as an agile practitioner, right? I was a Scrum Master, Scrum Lead, Product Owner. That's how I started out, and then I got the opportunity to manage those roles. Someone else didn't want to do it, and I was passionate about it, so I got to manage and coach those roles, and I was kind of good at it. And I kind of moved the teams along, and then I became the director of Agile Delivery.
Push the teams along.
Well, you
Okay.
know how it is. I was the boss
Make sure.
lady, and then I became the director of Agile Delivery in a web and mobile group. And I was pretty good at bringing like the business and tech together, right? Even though I was in an engineering group, I was pretty adept at doing that. And they came along and tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Well, we want you to do our whole transformation." And I was like, "Okay, I'm up for it." Wow. And then that kind of set my career off. And over the past 15 years, I've done everything from work for small startups and large global companies. I've been a consultant for small companies and large companies, but really for the past 6 years, I've really kind of been working at large global companies, helping them with large transformations or furthering their agile journeys across the enterprise. So that's kind of my personal journey. And so I would love for you to believe that I started my career when I was 10, but that's not true. Before my life in Agile, I was a software engineer in test, in quality engineering. I started my engineering life out in this thing called extreme programming. I used to sit next to Java engineers writing JUnits. I started out as a C++ programmer. And I would love to say it was by design. And I started out in extreme programming, the predecessor to Agile, and I was very knowledgeable about it, but I didn't. I used to sit in the basement of a telecommunications company of about 50 engineers, and all my friends sat in cubes, and I was like, why can't I go sit in a cube? Why do I have to go watch, user experience people click through websites? Like, why are they bothering me? Why do I have to sit next to a developer? But no, that's what kind of was the predecessor to my life in Agile. So a lot of people always ask, how did you end up as an executive in Agile? So that's my story. So Angela, your story.
C++. Anybody know what that is? I just want to make sure. Okay.
So your turn, Angela, your turn. You can tell the folks how you ended up as an Agile executive.
Boy, it was hard. I think it's because I had the biggest mouth in the room for one reason, right? So I started out starting Agile right here in Minnesota, actually. Anybody from here from Wells Fargo before I say anything? I started out as a product person, so I knew a lot about the mortgage industry. And does anybody remember what happened in like late 2008, 2009? Okay. That brought me to lovely Minnesota, right? Because I knew a lot about the product of mortgage foreclosure. So that's how I started out. And I started out and I was giving all my advices about what you should have in a foreclosure software, right? This is what you need to do. This is how you need to do it. And the CIO at the time said to me, well, I went to this convention and I learned something about this thing called Agile, and I need you to learn about it. Not only do I need you to learn about it, I need you to come back and I need you to go talk to everyone on the teams and say, we're going to do that. I said, okay, that means I gotta learn something, I gotta tell people what to do. I should be good at that, right? So I went to all these conventions. How many of y'all went in 2009 and said, hey, Agile conventions everywhere, and you start learning about Agile? Nobody? Just me? Am I the oldest one in the building? Come on. Okay. So I learned all this stuff about Agile, and I went back and I went to the teams, me being a product person, went back to the teams and I said, you should be doing this different. Not knowing that I should be doing stuff different also, right? So a developer came up to me and he said, yeah, I hear you saying all those great things, lady, but it ain't gonna work here. I suppose you try that somewhere else. And I walked back in, and I went back to the CIO. I said, this dude said he's not gonna do it. So he said, you have the mouth and the talent. I need you to force him to do it. And I said, force? Well, I'm good at that. Ask my husband. So I went back, and I thought of something different. I said, listen, why don't I get in and drive the change that I want? Wow. What an epiphany happens. The guy come in, he said, okay, I said, let's try this together. Let's go in, and let's try to just think this out in little pieces. Just little pieces. Let's figure this out, and let's do this incrementally, and let's get to the end of this road. He said, I don't know, but okay, let's try it. We tried it, and guess what? Our first sprint, we failed, like all of us do, right? Second sprint, we failed. By the third sprint, he said, I'm going back to the old way. I think you need to find something else to do. So I said, give me one more chance. So we decided to now bring on more developers in and understand a little bit better about what we were doing, right? So we failed a couple of times. Fourth sprint was a charm. We did it, we loved it. The guy said, okay, that kind of worked. We'll try it again. So we got to the end of that project, and forced foreclosure software was delivered on time, believe it or not, and everybody was loving it. Wow. So I went back, and the boss said, well, you know what, we got something over here I want you to do. And I was like, no, I don't want to leave this team. We got this good. I don't want to do anything else. Let me just work with this team. No, because you got to keep going. Now, going to and starting this over and over again became a problem. Why? Because I got burnt out, because I got tired of fighting with everybody every day, right? Every time you go to different places. How many of you fight with everybody every day sometime? Hey,
Lots of hands.
So needless to say, I figured that out, and I kept going and going, and then finally, I started out saying, you know what, I need to know a little bit more about this. So I became a Scrum Master. I actually sat there and said, hey, it was a Cprime person too.
So Angela, we have to get to the next slide.
We do, okay. Yeah, She always pushes me. See the bossy one in the room, right? I thought it was me. But anyway, we got past it, and here we are today. So let me find out about some of you guys. Who's in the room? How many of y'all are coaches? Quite a few. How many are you delivery leads? Or dev leads, tech leads? Great people. How many are product people? Dave, is your hand up? Okay, thank you. Okay, now, how many of y'all are changers? Like you change every day? Okay. And your hand is not up, right? I know it's not. Okay.
How many executives, managers, boss people? Okay, I see some boss folks in the room.
Well, what do you think, Jackie?
Yeah, okay.
That's pretty good. So, how many of you remember when life was good? We had plenty of money for budget, for transformations. Everything was great. Life was just, you walked in. I know, Jackie, do you remember we had the budgets of lifetime? I could call Ann up and say, I need 50 people coming to me next week, right? Budgets was great. We had great offices. How many of you had snacks at your offices, right? Yes.
You had the good coffee.
Yes, the good coffee, right? Espresso machine, push the espresso machines. You had, what else did you have, Jackie? You had virtual whiteboards everywhere, right?
Yeah, those budgets when they reconfigured the office, right?
Yeah.
For co-located spaces.
Lovely, right? And we had our stand-ups, and we were so excited, and we would stand up in front of a virtual screen and do all this stuff. How many of y'all did that? Everybody, right? Life was great, right? Well, how many of y'all worked for companies for a long time? Let me ask that. 5 years or more. How many of you working for companies 5 years or more now? Ooh. Ooh.
Yeah, some good numbers.
Good numbers. Okay. 2019, right? Happened.
That was
right?
pre.
Remember when you could hug your grandmother and say, hi, grandmother. You were visiting everybody at Christmas, Easter, and whatever other holidays you celebrate. You were visiting everybody, and you were in the family, and drunk uncle was there, right? Y'all remember those days, right?
Yeah, a handshake was an innocent thing.
Yeah, cough was just a cough, right?
Yeah.
You don't clear a room right now, right?
What is that, Ann? What was...
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
So we
It
all
was
about
all about co-location.
Co-location,
right?
Everybody in the room, everybody doing things. We were on this agile journey, we were doing great, right? Transformation was the thing. Whew. Then this happened. Needless to say that this COVID-19 thing happened, right? It changed everything about the way we do things, right? Our world blew up, literally, right? We were in a place where people had lost their lives. We didn't know what this disease was. We wore masks as an accessory. We bought all of the toilet paper up, right? We had Lysol off the shelves. You go in the supermarket and there was no milk. All of these things happened and we didn't know why. We just knew it was a disease out there, right? What do we do? What's happening? What happened in the Agile world, right? What happened? We became the professionals of how we can work around everywhere, any location, right? We could do that. We came Teams meetings, right? How many of you saw kids running around in the back, screaming and yelling, right? We had homeschool, right? We had dogs barking, right? We had Instacart was our favorite friends, right?
Yeah. Who cleaned their groceries before they came in the house?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
The OCD people raised their hands right away. Right?
Who became masters of Miro and Mural?
Yes.
Who even knew what those things were?
Before then.
Yeah.
Nobody did, right?
Yeah.
Well, who felt like, wow, this is great. I'm working from home. Just because the kids are around, it's still okay, right? Who liked that? Who enjoyed not commuting? So I live in the city of Atlanta where a commute could be one day almost, right? You got snow, one day. So we experienced a lot of things with this transformation, the new way of how we do things. Now, when I saw that COVID happen, I'm like, hey, we're Agilists. This is something we can really do. But as an executive, I realized that I had to
Let's be honest, Angela. Did you have, don't want to offend anyone, a oh shit moment?
Oh, a very much a oh shit moment. Because guess what happened?
What happened?
We had to order computers, right, for people at home, right? Well, there were some people who never worked at home before, right?
Yes.
We had a disaster going on. Supply chains were horrible, and we were on the phones all the time. Do you remember, Jackie?
We had a shortage of laptops.
Who ever thought we would have a shortage of laptops? With Best Buys, who would think that would happen, right? Or the Apple Store, right?
Yeah.
There was nothing. So we had to do business. Wait a minute, Jackie, let me ask you, did you have to think about in offshore, how are we gonna get everyone in India to have Wi-Fi?
Yes.
And we had to buy cards. I didn't even know it was a such thing as buying cards. Did you guys know that? I didn't. Learn that. Lesson learned. So all these things happen, and what are we gonna do? Well, again, we think we're Agilists and we're executives. We'll make it through this, right? But then we thought about other things. Sarah wanted to own a bakery now. She's like, I'm done. This pandemic stuff, don't want to do it anymore. We did the great resignation, things happened. And how many of you left your job during the pandemic? Wow. What did you do when you left your job?
I stayed home. I moved out of New York.
You
Wow.
did?
Back to Michigan.
Why did you do that?
To be by my family.
To be near your family.
Right.
Right?
Life came more important post-pandemic, right? We understood what life meant, and we value life. Until today, I'm thinking we probably do, right? We want to do what we want to do. I can't bake, but maybe Sarah wanted to own a bakery, right? Bonus. Just think about how many of you saw bonuses go up during post-pandemic? You guys didn't. You guys didn't look for jobs, actually, right? Because companies were having incentives because so many people were leaving their offices. So I know for us, we had a lot of incentives to try to keep people.
Yeah.
Retainer bonuses, right? You sign this paper, we can keep you for another year, right? All those things. Promotions were bigger than ever, right? Then we had people saying, well, I don't care how much you give me, I quit. Because what? I don't want to come back to work. I don't want to come into office. I want to do what I want to do. So how many
And
years?
we're Agile transformation
Yes.
executives.
How do you deal with that, right? Except was, I understand, but I need you to come back in because your team needs you, right? That face-to-face communication is so important, right? But convincing a person that, let's say a mother, I had a person that was a mother, she just had a baby, right? And she wanted to stay home. She got used to being home with her child. She did not want to go anywhere else and leave her child with a daycare, but she wanted to still work. How do you deal with that? Jackie, how would you deal with that?
Well, I work for a company that doesn't require people to come into the office.
See, there you have it.
How did you deal with that, Angela?
A lot of prayer. Because just that difference. Some companies said come in, some people said no, right? So as you deal with that, this transformation ball has to keep running. But one of the things we also figured out is that people wanted results quicker.
For less money.
Yes. You now have 3 coaches, Angela, go do it, right?
No longer have 35.
No, they're gone. So you remember that big explosive thing that I showed earlier? That's happening right now even, right?
Yes.
Budgets. We want you to produce more, faster, quicker, right away, right? Results right away. And now we're transforming what? From the top, right? Because now I'm sitting in the chair to say, yeah, we got to do it a little faster, and I got to be the one to help do that, right? I can no longer sit back and say, okay, you teams go back and come back and let me know. I got to be in the weeds to find that. So how many of you are in leadership? I saw the gentleman way in the back, he's in leadership. How are you leading differently post-pandemic? Yes.
Combination of what you said, getting involved in the weeds a little bit more, but also helping teams understand what they have available to them so they can grow.
And that means that you got to roll your sleeves up and get dirty, right? If we don't do that, we're not going to succeed. Now, I'm going to turn it over to Jackie, and we're going to talk about VUCA. How many of you have heard of that before? Dave, don't put your hands up. You cheated. Well, I'll turn it over to Jackie, and she's going to tell you a lot about it. There you go.
So VUCA. So basically with the, Angela had that slide with the world blowing up. And VUCA is a word you'll hear a lot in kind of, big, fancy, expensive management consulting, leadership trainings. And they always talk about, leaders being able to respond. And I use the word leadership because everyone in this room is a leader, right? And they talk about it being volatile, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, and how you as a leader in this new world, how you should respond to those things. And a lot of times it's this mythical thing. It comes from the military, and you always think of it when you're in these leadership classes as this third, we're gonna have this great world war and it's gonna happen. But basically COVID was that. Right, COVID happened, it exploded our kind of corporate and leadership management world, and it was like a true life incarnation of VUCA. And we as leaders and executives were having our, excuse my French, oh shit moment, and we had to respond to it. And we had to get through it. And at the time we're in a financial services company, and we had to respond to SBA loans, and we had to get these sites up and running in a matter of weeks. And it was really what Agile is about, right? It's Agile responding to change, being able to pivot. Anne talked about it in her talk this morning. And there were some definite lessons learned from an executive level, because we're executives, and we think at that enterprise level that we had to learn, and having that lens of being Agilists and having to run transformation. What? We had a lot of happy hour. Oh yes, we drank a lot. We did.
We're now going to meetings, by the way.
Yeah. So we're now in 2022, going into 2023, and there were some, major lessons learned. So the first one, and you most probably saw it in the key learnings in our short description of this, and I'm most probably going to cause some controversy in this room, but don't start throwing tomatoes and eggs and all of the other things at me. And the first thing I'm going to address is frameworks. And in our Agile community, we love our frameworks. They're like the comfort blanket. Angela and I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and we have this term, it's called a binky for your pacifier, your kid's pacifier.
Yes.
They are the binky of the Agile world, especially in large corporate environments, especially with our leaders. But I'm here to tell you, and I'm not here to knock them, a lot of people implement them. I have been a consultant, I am certified in a lot of those frameworks, but I'm here to tell you, post-2022, when money is tight, You do not need a framework for your transformation.
But I need certifications, Jackie.
You do not need certifications for your transformation. They are expensive, they are a huge overhead, and what Angela said earlier, we are getting the pressure. Our executives, our leaders want results quickly. They want them fast for their transformations, and certifications can be heavy, and they cost a lot of money. I'm here to tell you, Agile's been around for well over 20 years. Most of the things that are in those frameworks are completely free and out there in the universe. Agile, the Agile Manifesto was written in, 2001, when it really was about a software delivery, about small autonomous teams. When we're talking about enterprise Agile and the way the world is now, it is way more complex. You are better off if you're spending your Agile dollars on consultants that can focus on the very bespoke problems that your organization has. Be laser focused and hire folks who can solve the problems your organization has and can work on the things that are very specific to your organization versus thinking that you can hire a one-size-fits-all or apply a one-size-fits-all framework that can really, kind of come in and not really fit your organization and have a high value cost because it requires you to work with HR to do a huge job re-architecture, or you spend a lot of time trying to reassign roles. But it's really not addressing the things that you really need to do. If you want to focus on delivery agility, which is on your teams, focus on your teams. Focus on getting your Scrum Masters and product owners certified, but not just certification. Focus on enablement, getting them up and running, and not just on process, because you can have a really great process team, but if you don't have better Agile engineering practices, they can be very proficient at that framework, but if they can't get code out the door to deliver value, it's kind of a null point.
Action over discussion.
Progress over perfection. Did we hear that this morning?
Yes,
oh
we
my
did.
gosh.
We did.
Okay. No eggs, no tomatoes.
No.
Okay.
But I see a
move
lot
on.
of faces that
I
look
see
shocked.
a lot of shocked faces. Let's keep going. Okay. Next one is how do you provide business value? Quickly, right? You got to get that value out there quickly. People don't have a lot of patience anymore. Agile's been around for a while. What happens when I go into organizations and I'm talking to executives, they're saying, yeah, but Agile doesn't work for me. It's great at the team level, but it doesn't work for me. Because what is happening a lot, we come in as Agile unicorns and Agile fairies, and we stand on our Agile soapboxes, and they expect us to sprinkle Agile fairy dust and fart Agile rainbows, and it's going to fix all of their problems. Because we always talk from a process perfection perspective. Oh, well, if the teams are doing all of this stuff perfectly, hopefully you will see the value. Yeah, that doesn't work for executives. What you need to come in and do, because coaches spend most of their time at the team level, most of the problems aren't at the team level. They're not at the team level.
They're with us, Jackie.
Right?
Yeah.
Before, they'd spend a lot of money on coaches. Coaches would work all the time at the team level, right? We've come a long way. I get it. If you're brand new to Agile, bring those coaches in, focus them on the team, but spend time quickly getting those teams up and running. Spend time with the teams where you can get proficiency, and most of the time, it's not from the process. Once you've identified really good Scrum Masters, really good product owners, the process stuff they can handle. You have really smart people in your org. You need to concentrate on better Agile engineering practices, and it needs to be on the code that they work in. Not a training class where they go take the training class and come back. You need to concentrate on dojos or immersive learning, because that's where you're going to get the ROI. Once you've done that and you create that continuous learning environment, you need to start concentrating on what I call shifting left, looking at your value stream, understanding change management, driving your transformation, not from the bottom up, but working with what I call the frozen middle of your leadership, and then your executives. Because your executives get it, your team members get it, it's that what I call that frozen middle. That's where you have to focus your transformation. And if you have dollars, you need to understand what the business drivers are of your leadership and assign whatever you're going to get out of your transformation to those business outcomes. So if you have a problem in your company, say with escape defects, your transformation should tie to reducing those escape defects. If your business has a problem with customer satisfaction, you should be assigning your transformation to getting better customer satisfaction. That's what you need to tie your transformation to, whatever your business outcomes are. Otherwise, your leaders are going to think, wah, wah, wah. They don't want to hear about better stand-ups and sit-downs. They don't want to hear about maturity models. They want to know what's in it for them. Think business value for your transformation. Otherwise, they don't care. Am I lying?
No. We don't hear it. Not at all.
All right. Any questions?
That's a long pause.
I know, still no tomatoes or eggs.
Yeah. We're escaping. We're doing good.
Very controversial. Oh my God, it's really
No.
good. All right. I'll keep going.
Okay.
All right, building your team. This is a big one. Like we said, I went pre-pandemic, I had about 35 coaches for about a 3,000 team organization.
Life was good.
It was awesome. I had plenty of love to spread around. Post-pandemic, I went down to 10. How am I going to spread that love? What the hell am I going to do? My money was cut. So, how do I build my team in order to get the best ROI in order to affect change and to keep the money coming, right? When money gets tough, Agile's not tangible, right? It's not something that executives can look at and say, oh, if I add another SWE, software engineer, oh, I get that, right? If I add another project manager, oh, I get that. But another Agile coach? Yeah, they're the unicorns who sprinkle
Agile is great.
Fairy dust.
Yes.
And it doesn't work for me. I get it for teams, but what's the ROI for me? So you really have to think about when you're building your team, you don't have as much luxury anymore to have what I call just team coaches. You really have to focus on who's playing the role of your Scrum lead and product owner and figure out how you're having support to get them proficient, because now your coaches need to start looking beyond delivery agility. You've got to start looking at your organization's adaptiveness and your leadership effectiveness and your product innovation. And I'm not saying you shouldn't concentrate on delivery agility, but make sure you're spending those quality dollars on coaches who are concentrating on the things that are really needing the work in your delivery agility. And I bet 99.999% of the time, it's not the process. It's your engineering practices.
Yes.
So you should be spending those high-value dollars, if it's for your coaching team, on coaches who have enterprise experience, or if you're trying to level up your internal coaches, it should be on them getting those organizational adaptiveness experience, that leadership effectiveness. How can they coach the leaders in your organization? Do they have change management experience? Do they have product depth so that they're bringing together your product organization and your engineering organization? Remember that slide that was there before? Coaches spend most of their time coaching teams. Most of the problems are not at the team level.
We should ask who agree with that, Jack.
They don't
Who
have to
agrees
agree
with
with me, Angela.
We have to. That's what they said. We have to be agreeable.
Well, maybe we should ask
Yes, let's-
if there are any thoughts
Yes.
or questions.
Agree? Don't agree?
They
Dave.
No, I'm saying coaches.
Coaches.
I'm saying coaches. Remember, Angela and I are executives, so maybe we should talk a little bit about the organizations we run. I work for Salesforce. I'm the VP of Agile Delivery and Coaching at Salesforce, and I have a team of 53 coaches that serves about 10,000 people. We have Scrum leads on our teams. There are thousands of them. They do not report into my organization. So I don't consider Scrum leads or facilitators for the team. They coach the team, but I don't consider them coaches. And most organizations that are maturing, you know, Agile has been in Salesforce's DNA since 2006, right? Coaches have a specific role. So I'm not saying Scrum Masters. That's a good question, though. Another hand here. You have to tie what you're doing from an agility perspective to what's in it for them. That's where the miss is.
Yes.
Because a lot of times we think our customers, you know, Agilists, we need to start thinking in an agile way. You need to figure out who your customer is. It's not always the teams, it's those leaders. So you need to figure out what's in it for them and then start having conversations from that perspective. I bet when you start solving their problems and figuring out what keeps them up at night, they'll want your coaching.
All the time. They'll be begging for you to come.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
How the managers coexist with agility, and if there's no problem hiring managers, that means they're bringing value.
Say that again?
The managers and the agile coaches in agile. So managers bring value, there's no problem hiring them.
So you're saying if there's no problem hiring managers, they're bringing value?
No, he's saying that Agile coach doesn't bring value, but they can see where managers bring value.
And so I don't
That's
know
fair.
I don't know your organization, right? But I will tell you a scenario that I've experienced. Usually people hire more managers to solve more problems,
Exactly.
right? They think that when there's chaos or when there's a lot of issues or they're not meeting demand, they think, okay, if I hire more software managers, that will solve the problem. So for me, in my experience, if we're hiring lots and lots of managers, there's a problem in your system.
We're going the wrong way.
Yeah. If you look at an NFL team, there are usually
Bucks.
numerous coaches because a winning team usually has great coaches. They don't hire more managers, right? They usually hire coaches who are proficient and are always trying to improve, right? Organizations that are constantly hiring managers or just adding more folks it's usually when there's so many problems that they think, oh, if I hire more managers or I add more software engineers, it'll solve the problem.
Spreadsheet chasers, right?
There you go.
What do you have done? What do you have done, right? Right? That's what managers usually do, right?
Yeah,
and if
more
you're a manager, I'm sorry,
taskmasters.
you won't do this
If
anymore.
I add more people who are watching the bottom line,
Yes.
we'll get more done.
Yes, sir. Now you have to stand up if you have a mic.
So if you say that at an organizational level you have coaches who are working with the large organization, you have Scrum Masters that are focusing on the team level, what's keeping your organization from having those Scrum Masters also work at an organizational level?
So for me, because I am the executive over Agile, that's about a career path, a career ladder, and job architecture. So if you're a Scrum Master who has aspirations to become what I call a team of teams coach or an enterprise coach, that's an aspirational career path that you could go to. So that's what that is.
I have to stand?
Yes. If you got the mic, you got to stand up.
You're just making up rules as
I
you
know.
go along.
Hey,
You're just
I'm
making up
agile.
rules.
I'm agile here.
So what do you do with those process improvement enforcers? Where do they fit in? How do they pivot? Where do they fit it into this whole?
Give us an example when you say process improvement.
At my organization, we're always creating these improvements to just about every process, if it's change management or, or maybe reporting a process, or some how do those fit in, even just into the agile process itself? It's getting improved, and we're
No, that doesn't sound
building.
agile.
So I'm going to say it doesn't sound very agile.
Right.
And again, I'm bracing myself for tomatoes
Yeah.
and eggs and things like that. That sounds like what I call a binky and blanket issue.
CYA.
A CYA. It's just a symptom of a culture. That's not an agile problem. That's a cultural problem. And it's very hard to break. That's why you need, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it again, you need coaches at the organizational adaptiveness level and the leadership level. That's something that needs to be coached out of the organization. And if you only have coaches at that delivery agility level, that will not change.
It's not going to adapt with those people up top. Yes, ma'am. So you don't want the mic because you don't want
She's
to stand.
refusing the mic. I love you.
Hello.
Hi.
Can we be friends on LinkedIn?
Yes, we can.
What's up? What's up, Queens? Okay. So I was just wondering if you could talk about the frozen level of managers that you were talking about earlier, and
Yeah.
the
Can't
best
name
way
names,
to
though.
engage
No, we won't.
We
and
sure.
address them.
Say that again. What was that last part? You said it really
Address them.
quietly, like no one could hear.
And the best way to engage and address them. So I'm a Scrum Master, but there aren't Agile coaches. So I'm doing that whole thing.
You're coaching up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a book about it.
Okay. I guess I'm going to ask you to. Do you use an Agile tool right now? Do you?
You're gonna make me stand longer.
Yeah, a little bit. Just a little bit.
Yeah, Agile tool.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like Jira?
Yes, we use Jira. I'm not in love with it. Don't tell.
Okay, that's okay.
okay.
I don't care. I just wanted a tool.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the one thing I've always seen as a Scrum Master, if what you want to do is show progress for that middle management, is you always go to the tool. You open it up and you talk from the tool. Don't talk about, well, if we did this different, if we did this. People don't care about that. But if you can drive metrics to prove what you're thinking, that changes the conversation. What about you, Jackie? What do you think?
I think data is powerful, right? You can't mess around
Nope.
with the numbers, but it should always be the start of a conversation.
Right, exactly.
Because data drives decisions.
Right.
And if you can baseline a metric, right, and show improvement or show where it's dipping,
Right.
managers can't mess with that. Right? So even if it's just a small experiment with your team that can tie to the conversation you're trying to have, that's powerful. And it can even, this is horrible, but it works.
It works.
It will drive a conversation with that manager's manager. I'm just saying. Not saying that I ever did that. I'm just
Yeah, I
just
think you
saying.
did.
Just saying.
Any other questions?
Dave.
Dave.
What do you think about, I don't know, you said teams, and teams live at this kind of bottom level of the organization. But don't you think the middle layer doesn't really know how to act like a team?
Yes.
100%.
And that's where that leadership effectiveness comes in. And that's why it's the importance of building your coaching team. Because those managers, I call them the frozen middle, need to be coached on how to become a team. And when I build coaching organizations, we are very focused on coaching leaders and how we bring them together and how they have courageous conversations and how we break down silos and how they should be coaches for their teams. So then that enables the Scrum Masters and product owners to have a better experience with their teams. So yes, absolutely.
Because that's where that control and command comes from, right there, right?
Yeah.
So you have to stop it.
All right, we have 5 minutes left, so I want to get to the last slide because we did such a good job on it and you all should see it.
Yeah, well, it's just, exactly, at least.
Why waste a perfectly good
Yeah, exactly.
slide? And then we can continue Q&A-ing. So these are some of the things from pre-pandemic that were going on, right? We used to do large upfront investment in frameworks and certification. Post-pandemic, we like to do targeted coaching, all right? We want to meet the company where they are, right? Pre-pandemic, we focused a lot on like delivery agility and what I call process perfection.
Yes.
Now we want progress over perfection. And we need to deliver business value quickly. Right? We need to focus on what's important to the business.
That
What's
80% that Ann talked about earlier.
Ann gave us a perfect segue. That 80% Ann talked about this morning.
Right.
Whatever you're doing with teams, whatever you're doing with your transformation, should be focused on that and should tie to that 80% that your organization's trying to achieve. Before, it was large centers of excellence. It was about maturity models. It was about, teams to a certain level. Now it's more about small coaching offices, right? We focus on the things of shifting left. Like, what are the things in the system that are making it hard for teams to deliver value? Right, success was co-location, face-to-face, not anymore. It should all be about how do we accommodate the mom who wants to stay at home? Right. How do we accommodate distributed teams? It's about focusing on the core overlapping hours that teams can work together and mob or collaborate, okay? And then, we want qualitative and quantitative metrics to drive decision making. Again, it's about making decisions, not beating people over the head with a 2x4, okay? And before, it used to be very bottom up and team driven. It needs to be enabled by leadership. If they do not own their transformation, if they are not enabling the culture, Agile will never be successful, and you will never get any more funding for all the love and greatness that you do. Right. Okay, we've got 3 minutes left. Yes. Any more questions? Oh, God, I'm going to fall off the side.
Don't fall, please.
So I was just looking at the previous slide. We talk about post-pandemic. I look at all of that, and I'm like, we should have been doing that pre-pandemic.
Absolutely.
And it's the disruption, right? I mean, we're not saying pre-pandemic was working and things changed. We're saying, okay, I just wanted to confirm.
Yes, that was
Thanks.
a disruption, yes.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Thank you. How do you present the crisis to the leadership, explaining them that they need to change and buy in for transformation? Thank you.
So I'll tell you the honest truth. I don't even talk about you need a transformation. No. Agile's going to fix all your problems. I just have conversations, and I do a lot of deep listening, and I understand what their problems are, what's keeping them up at night, and I collate that data to themes and opportunities, and then I present, and I don't even talk about Agile, I just present the things through Agile that can help get them to their outcomes and solve those problems for them.
I show the blow-up slide, with the world coming to an end, and then I start talking about
She does, though.
I do.
I'm not going to lie, she does.
I really do.
She does.
And I relate it back to the ROIs, because everybody understands back to the ROIs, right?
She leads with the money. And
follow
she does.
the paper trail. Anyone else?
Anyone else?
Any particular tips for talking to organizations and helping them let go of their baking? Helping them realize that they don't need a framework and helping them get past that feeling that they need to have a framework if they're going to scale? How do you talk about it?
Lead with the money.
Money, dollars. This costs this, this costs this. Google is free. All you got to do is say that.
This macroeconomic climate, that's how you get them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
One here.
Yes.
So a couple times you mentioned a focus on, I forget if you used the term engineering practices or technical practices. Can you talk a little bit about what you would consider in that box of
mob programming, paired programming, test-driven development, BDD.
Yes.
For me, what I found is that pre-pandemic, we focused so much on what I call process that teams would get so proficient at estimating, sprinting. It was, our merge process, our SCM process, they would do all this great work, but it couldn't get out. CI/CD, those are the things most companies are lacking in.
Infrastructure.
And then they say Agile is failing.
Right.
Agile is not failing. Your architectural stack is failing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Use the tools that are out there to make you
And
better.
help your team,
right?
and internally coach your devs, especially these organizations that have had these legacy systems for years but haven't invested in their engineers. You spend all this money on frameworks, but you're not spending any money on developing your engineers. You may send them to a class, but then when they come back to their tech stack, they don't know how to use any of these tools.
We're blowing up.
Oh,
we're done.
we've beeped. We're done.
Let's see.
We're done.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Yes, I did.
We were so close.
We were so
Anne.
We blew
Damn
cool.
it.